code everything.
Alright guys, we're back in Free Code Camp, Intermediate Algorithm Scripting. We're working on smallest common multiple. So this one, at first glance, is very intense, but you really have to think it through. I've been doing some pair programming on these intermediate ones. I highly suggest it. If you see over here, I have a whiteboard. I do all the lessons. Before I write a line of code, I go over there and I write it out so that I can visualize it. I definitely recommend doing that if you have access to that. If not, pick one up at Costco or Target for about 15 bucks. I got that one for 15 bucks at Costco. And as I was doing this, I basically was able to solve it without writing a single line of code. And when I was done, my buddy typed it up and we got it. So it's definitely a harder one though. We're getting towards the end of these intermediate algorithm scripting. So let me explain what's going on here. So what we're trying to do is find the lowest common multiple for a range of numbers. You have a low number, you have a high number. So if you get the number 1 and 5, we need to find the lowest common multiple for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which turns out to be 60. So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to sort the array. The reason for that is if the array came with a 5 before a 1, the way I wanted to add to the array is I needed to iterate through it, the length of it. So I'm going to sort the array so that 1 comes before 5 every time. Then I'm going to create an empty array, as I like to do. I've had a couple of people in comments ask me why I create a placeholder array. And the reason is so that the original input is never distorted if I need to use it for any other reason. Then I'm going to run a for loop that's going to get all the values between 1 and 5, because we may not always be starting at 1. Maybe we're going from 5 to 10, and so I'm going to start there. So let's go ahead and do that part, and then I'll explain my while loop and how I did that. So because that's kind of the first part of it. So I'm just going to create a simple variable here. Let me lower this a little bit. Simple variable called range, and we're going to say range is equal to our inputted array dot sort, and because we want to check our code, let's just go ahead and return range, and we're going to change this to a 5 and a 1 so we know that it's working. So you can see it sorts it in the correct order. Cool. So that's our first part. The next part is we need to take an array, create an empty array, and from there, hearing like some music going off. Is it my phone? No. From there, we're going to. Must be. Is it here? Oh my God! It is here. Oh no! All right, sorry. I think it's the neighbors. Sorry about that. Let's get back to the video, guys. So what we're going to be doing next is we're going to actually be doing, hopefully I'll cut that out. Maybe I'll just leave it in for funs. We're going to create a for loop. So this isn't going to be our typical for loop because remember, we may not be starting at 1. So what we're actually going to do is say var I is equal to our first element in the array. So that's where we're going to start. And then we're going to say while I is less than or equal to the length of the array, or excuse me, the length of the array, r dot length minus 1, r dot plus plus. That's right. So the length of the array minus 1. So and the reason it's not the length of the array, we're taking the array and we're getting the last value in the array. So it might be a little anti-intuitive. As you can see, I was just trying to spit it out properly, kind of messed it up. So next what we're going to do is we're just going to push the value of I. That's it, and that will allow us to iterate through. So again, let's go ahead and test our code here. We'll just go ahead and run through this. And you can see we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, cool. So what the next step is, we then need to see if we're just going to use modulo basically, and we're going to use a while loop, we're going to use a true or false statement, and we're going to create a variable to store the lowest common multiplier. So let's go ahead and create a our simple true or false variable. So we're going to set this equal to true, because once it's false, we found the LCM. And then we're going to create a var LCM, and we're going to set it initially to 0. And then we're going to create a while loop. And what's going in this while loop, we're going to say while true, keep running this. And then we're going to have we're going to iterate. Each time we go in the while loop, we want to increase the LCM by 1. The reason for that is we need to take the LCM and then divide it by each, or modulo it by each item in the array, and if it does not equal 0, we need to break. That means there's a remainder, or it's not the lowest common multiple is what it means. Else, if it is, we can set x equal to false, and we're good to go. So let's just go ahead and create our simple for loop here. Again, like our first for loop, we're actually going to be setting it equal to the starting value and not 1 or 0, because we may not be starting at 1 or 0. So, and we'll say while I is less than. Again, it's the same as the other for loop. So if you're able to figure, if you understood the other part, this should be somewhat easy. So length minus 1, I plus plus. Okay, so we're iterating through our array. Now, if our LCM modulo our current value, j. So if our LCM modulo j is not equal to 0, we want to break. We break. Else if our j is exactly equal to the array. So this else if statement, let me explain this before we go into it. So our else if means if we actually get to this else if statement, it didn't have to break our for loop, meaning that once, essentially what we want is for this not to equal 0, because that means that it's a common multiple, so we just continue on. So if it's not, and or if it is, rather, we break it, it's not the common multiple. But if it is, we just kind of ignore it until we get to that final value, that final where j is let me fix that too, where j actually has reached the last value in our array, meaning that it's passed all the tests, and then we can set it to false and return our LCM. So that's what's going on here. So we're saying, look, if j is ever equal to the same value as the last value, x is equal to false, break the for loop, and then return the LCM. And so when we break this, it breaks the for loop, it iterates through here, it adds 1 to the LCM. So it's not actually running through the whole thing. So it's just going to keep it breaking the for loop until we actually meet this victory condition, if you want to call it that. So we'll see this. And all we have to do here is change this to return the LCM. And I think, assuming I didn't make a syntax error, it looks like I did. So let's go ahead and look over our code. Line 10. So var x is equal to true. LCM. Sorry, I'm checking my code here. So no, I'm not going to disable loop protection. I did that the other day, and it took me 20 minutes to get this thing back up and running. I really don't like this new update. Sorry, Quincy. So j is less than our array length minus 1 I plus plus. If our x equals true, else j is equal to array. Let me go ahead and pause this video real quick. Alright, sorry about that, guys. Pause the video, find my mistake. So right here, you'll see that I put R instead of array. So that was where our error was. So let's go ahead and run that real quick, and you'll see that it all works. Very, very nice. So let's, as always, let's put our comments in here because, you know, this is only about 22 lines of code once I cleaned it up a little bit on the break here. But it's definitely one of those things where if I go back and look at it, I would like to have the comments there. It's good practice to get into. So sorts array, so the var does, so the range here sorts the array. Actually, you know what, I don't even actually use this, do I? Now that I look at it, I should though. It's interesting. Sorts the array. I'm looking at them like I never use range anywhere. Sorts the array. Anyhow, we'll just continue on. Create empty array. All right, and then here we'll do one for here as well. Starts for loop at lowest value and continues till we iterate to the highest value. At this point, you should know what array.push is. Adds to end of the array. Here we create a variable for our while loop. While loop victory variable, if you want. That's what I call it. I don't know what's a good name. LCM lowest common multiple. We'll type it out. Lowest common multiple placeholder. While loop. Increment each iteration of while loop for LCM. All right, again here. Well, we don't need to do this again. The same exact thing. All right, so here, this is where some of the good logic is. So if our lowest common multiple does not return 0, it means there's a better common multiple essentially. Ends for loop if LCM is not correct for all values of the array. And then here, when you reach the end of the array, it has passed the LCM test. Break the while loop. So I hope you guys found this helpful. A lot of code. It's a lot of math. It's not necessarily a lot of code. That's probably the best way to put it out. As always, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it if you got a friend that's doing this. And, oh, I also have a Patreon account, so if you want to help out there, that's great. But as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Hey, guys, I just want to say thank you to the Heart Tech for sponsoring this video. He's a YouTube and Twitch streamer. Go ahead and check out his videos. You can click the annotation on his logo right above and go to his channel. So thanks again.